Next up, we have Michelle Kovacevic, who's from C4, Centre for International Forestry Research in Bogor in Indonesia.
Thanks, Tan. So we've heard a lot today about the phrase climate change, and it's often come to bespeak bad news. The world engulfed in flames, smoke smothering innocent bystanders, cow carcasses lying on dry beds of earth. These doomsday images are often still synonymous with climate change communication efforts in both developed and developing countries. When I searched for climate change and forest stories a few weeks ago, these were among the first headlines that appeared. Catastrophic, calamity, destruction, irreversible, doomed. It seems that we're still plagued with these messages that evoke feelings of helplessness, even though we all know that these messages have limited effects for a lot of people. So many of the highly publicised graphs and charts that show climate change also pose a problem for communications because they don't inspire a sense of urgency in people. The problem seems too big for us to handle. So how do we systematically and systemically introduce communication pathways for people to find solutions? Today I'd like to talk about 3 aspects of looking for climate communication solutions. The challenges we face in crafting our messages, the models we use at the Centre for International Forestry Research, where I work, to communicate these messages, and the media and methods we use to help reach and resonate to our audiences. On the one hand, the forestry sector, we have wonderful visual images that we can create when we try to engage audiences in climate change issues like sustainable forest management that help people adapt. Yet it's too easy for us to fall back into the trap of focusing on statistics like how many football fields of forests are lost every second and mass extinctions of iconic flora and fauna. And these have become really counterproductive for our sector in communicating and affecting change. The forest and climate change sector is also teeming with information, research and ideas and a multitude of interested people who are influencing both sides of the debate and the direction of policy and action. So there's a lot of good information available, but there's not much that's informed. There's a lot of misinformed, sensationalised, biased, simplistic or unnecessarily negative information. But it's not just simply about disseminating better information. I urge you to read this story in Time magazine that details the body. There's a lot of psychological work behind risk perception and the minefield of mental barriers that people have when trying to confront climate change issues. So we have to keep all these challenges in mind when we're crafting our messages as communicators. It's not just enough to continue stating them. We need to better identify the causes and invest our energies in taking the pathways towards solutions. And particularly in many of the developing forest countries where C4 works, we need to paint pictures of opportunity that give people hope. For a research organisation such as us, solutions focused is not necessarily advocacy, fluff or good news. It's forward-looking, it's serious, it's critical, it's about powerful narratives, it's about innovative ideas, it's about who's solving what and how. It's about knowing your audience and what challenges they're facing and what solutions they're looking for too. Communications can encourage people to secure food, water and shelter, improve their economic opportunities, cope with crises. It can be Lego helping children describe their future. It can be building awareness, motivation, self-belief, knowledge and skills. And there are real opportunities for us to encourage these effective actions, provided we use the right approaches and outlets that know the needs and preferences of our audiences. So our communication strategy at C4 is based on this theory. We believe that policy-orientated research that breaks the problems down into manageable pieces and suggests individually tailored solutions will lead to better policy. And our main audience is policymakers and communities in developing countries. But we have a whole range of tools that we use for this communication, and I'm just going to highlight a few of them that we've tailored to different audiences. One way to do this is not to frame the issue around the words climate change. A recent study, actually I'm going to quote Tan's organisation BBC Media Action, did some research on this, and they found that it can be more effective actually to focus on issues that affect people's day-to-day lives. So when we meet with communities, our researchers and our communications people, we talk about conservation, we talk about better efficiency in wood fuel energy use, we talk about how to better manage their farms. We're not always mentioning the words climate change. And we recently identified a need to synthesise this information out there that's on forest and climate change. So we developed a website that's called forestclimatechange.org, and it brings tools, research, analysis and constructive debate on sideline issues that are tailored to different audiences. And here we're really trying to help decision makers and researchers understand why a particular piece of information is important, how it can be applied, and how it relates to everything else that's taking up so much of their brain time. So we're filtering out that information. Another important aspect is to tap into social identities of people and their affiliations. So when we work with forest communities, at that level, social support is crucial. People who feel isolated and who don't make decisions as a community are not taking as much action on climate change. And trust also plays a big role in these communities too. They're more likely to engage in action if they trust the people who are giving them that information. At C4, we build these communities in a number of ways. One of the ways is through our events and conferences, which, like these kinds of events, they bring people together from across different disciplines and sectors who often aren't talking to each other at all in a participatory way, and we want them to draw action-oriented policy solutions to large-scale problems. It's also vital to root our communication campaigns in people's values. So in Indonesia, where C4 is based, people have really strong desires to protect health, the environment, and provide for their future generations. But they're also the most prolific users of Twitter in the world. Even the president uses it every day. And soap operas are very popular. So messages modelled around these issues and platforms are the ones that will probably resonate most strongly with these people. We look at these issues at C4 in our capacity building and training programs for local communities, for journalists and for communicators. The topic just is of our scientists. Before our scientists were able to start their research in a forest community in Papua in Indonesia, the community demanded that they explain the latest climate change science. And researchers don't often get taught how to communicate climate science. So they really struggled to find information and ways in which to explain these issues to people. So one of the other things that we're really focused on is making sure scientists learn how to be better communicators, because until they are, we probably won't start seeing changes in these news headlines as well. So to quote the Solutions Journalism Network, which is a website that's underpinned a lot of our thinking on this, to innovate and change, people need to know two things: what is broken and how it can be fixed. We do a really good job on the first half, but it's time to give the second half more attention, and we focus on opportunities as well as risks, and that can help society direct its actions. I'd like to leave you with this headline I came across yesterday. It's about the fires in Indonesia that happened 6 months ago, and it was termed the worst pollution crisis to hit Southeast Asia in more than a decade. We now know that the fires are actually resulted from a complex combination of climate change, poverty, land ownership, and agricultural issues. And yet 6 months later, society is still continuing to frame the debate with doom and gloom messages. So we shouldn't ignore the problem, but should we allow it to frame the debate? It may seem obvious, but I think we need to keep demanding constructive debate in our public space and be brave enough to call out inaccuracies when we see them. When you're designing your communication campaigns, always keep your audiences in mind and break down the problems and help frame the debate in a way that allows each of your audiences to feel like there are concrete ways that they can make a change. Thanks.